Hello, guys. Welcome to No Man's Podcast, episode 14. As presented, produced, sponsored, and everything by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. Very generous organization which fronts the bill for all of our productions. My name is Vincent, and I'm
I am
joined by
Mike.
illustrious co-hosts.
Well, I already said my name.
And I'm Michael.
The Double Mike Show. And today it should be a short episode, depends. We are talking about S.H.I.E.L.D, Agent of the Bat, number 50 to 51. The last time we talked about an S.H.I.E.L.D issue, we hinted how this was coming. S.H.I.E.L.D in these issues, I think in the previous one, did they already rename the book?
Yeah.
I think they renamed the book an issue or two before this, but he's officially in this renamed era, which I mostly associate with issue 50, because the series is exactly 100 issues, I believe. And he gets a new costume. We're going to talk about that. This is still the creative team of Dennis O'Neil and Roger Robinson. And these issues kind of, in the way DC collects the No Man's Land stuff, since S.H.I.E.L.D is kind of like a B player in the whole thing. Obviously, it's called Batman No Man's Land, and at least for this stuff, he's not even in Gotham, while Batman is. So they kind of piece them in, even though these two issues clearly take place literally right after each other. So just to make it easier for us and to have episodes devoted to here's some S.H.I.E.L.D stuff, we're kind of compressing them and moving things around to make it more digestible for both us and the audience. So this is S.H.I.E.L.D, Agent of the Bat, number 50 and 51. And I will let one of the mics, I will give the mic to Mike.
So, yeah, you mentioned that the way we're breaking this up. So I want to also state that issue 50 is the very last issue. Well, it's the last actual issue at the end of No Man's Land Volume 2 in the collection for that. After that's like the secret files, which is just, I guess they just threw it in there to pad out the book, because obviously that book, when we talk about it much later, has a lot more players in it involved than we've even gotten to yet. But then 51 is right after No Law, New Order, which was our last episode in No Man's Land Volume 1 proper. So we're kind of talking about, if you're trying to follow along, we're in two different books in this issue, but that's just the way they split it up. But we open this issue with Batman talking to Jean-Paul Valley. He's not in his costume. He's just regular Jean-Paul Valley here. And he's basically proposing him with, hey, I have to stay in Gotham, so I'm going to kind of task you to be bring down Nicholas Scratch, as you're my agent of the Bat. So you're working for me, kind of thing going on. And because Azrael's costume and kind of persona publicly is tarnished after the politician Halavan was killed the last time he confronted Nick Scratch, everyone thinks that Azrael's a murderer, so he needs a new costume. So Bruce gives him a new suit that he said that Harold whipped up for him. So we get another Harold drop, because he's going to be slowly kind of not a factor anymore. Well, actually, not slowly, more fastly, actually, than anything. But Jean Paul believes that he's kind of nothing without the Azrael suit, as he believes the old suit is what gives him kind of his power to draw from. But he accepts the mission to go after Nicholas Scratch, and with the help of Oracle, he wants to figure out how or why Nick Scratch's men are brought in / how are they being altered. And Oracle gives him the lowdown to, it is a doctor that Scratch had shared an office with, and they were colleagues back when Scratch was a doctor, before he got transformed into what he is now. And it's Dr. Kurt Lead, who kind of worked with physiology. So he's going to go to question him. We have a jump cut to Scratch and his men talking, and Scratch is on kind of figuring it out, where he knows Batman and Azrael are definitely after them, and they'll see him again, and they know Kurt Lade is the one of the main sources they'll go after, as he knows that he has some sort of information on his backstory that he doesn't want out. So he kind of tasks his goons to go and kill Kurt Lade. Asriel, on the track of Lade, goes to S.H.I.E.L.D, because it's a Asphedel. So I'm going to call it Asphodel, a small town, I'm guessing outside of Gotham. We're eventually going to get to right outside of Bloodhaven by the end of this arc. So this whole thing is taking outside of Gotham completely. Also, I think we noted last time, but Azrael's driving a yellow VW Bug, which I think is still funny. But he kind of has a conflict within himself of what costume he wants to wear to confront these guys. But he decides to put on the old suit, as he still feels that it's a part of him. And while he was changing, a guy he's changing out in the middle of a field. Like, there's this cabin and a church out kind of in the middle of the nowhere in this kind of basically drifter town. And a guy sees him and goes to his buddies in a bar and be like, yo, that's that Azrael guy who killed that politician, so we got to take him down. So he kind of rounds up these bar goons to go after him. Azrael's talking to Lade and kind of clearing his name. He's like, no, I didn't kill that politician. But Lade says that he's not the one who is altering these guys, but he has information on Nick Scratch himself, saying that he has no relatives and that they were all killed in a car crash. But just as they're getting to their conversation, they're attacked by, I'm calling them the bar crew, kind of hastily put together. Azrael takes them out, and like one of the guys just has a gun, and this is where I got confused in this issue. So one of the guys is just like, he tells him, you're holding a gun, and he's like, I am, or he didn't know that, and he goes, where'd that come from? And then he just gets hit with a ceremonial dagger, is what I'm going to call that, in the back, as Scratch's goons have also in Lade's house, and they ambush Azrael, knock him out, and start they tie him and the men up, which the bar crew, and they kidnap Lade and leave them all to die and burn. Azrael wakes up just in time to slip out of his costume, as that's the way he's able to get out of the ropes that are binded to him. He drags all the men out, but his costume is completely burned now and unsalvageable. He saves the men, and he's kind of planning his next moves, and he says, inner monologuing to himself, hey, it's time for a change. Azrael, meet the new Azrael, as he puts on the new suit, and the final page of the book is a giant splash page by Robinson showing off the new costume. It's got that 90s where it's just kind of the half face mask, so it's, you see his hair, and you see his mouth, so it's kind of like Gambit, more like Cyclops really, and he's got a big red cape and more of like a silvery, I'm calling this like a silvery sky blue, depending on how it's colored in the page, kind of armor chest piece, and gauntlets with a silver and red belt, red logo connecting the cape, and a black kind of tight suit underneath it. I like this costume. I think it's fine, though I much prefer the original Azrael look. I thought this issue was fine. I'm surprisingly enjoying Azrael more than I thought I would. And I think a lot of that is Dennis O'Neil knows how to carry an issue, and he knows that, especially kind of with this book, let's keep the plot moving. We don't really dwell for long, and each page flows to the next one. So we always have some sort of action or building or going on here. And I like Robinson's pencils a lot. I think, at least in my opinion, knowing what art's coming up, he might be the most consistent artist for No Man's Land Volume 1. For No Man's Land Volume 1 at least. But I thought he does a lot of good shadow work here with kind of like in the Azrael appearing out of shadows and Batman appearing out of shadows, and I liked the whole sequence in the fire. I thought that was good. But opening up to you guys, what did you guys think of Azrael, Agent of the Bat, number 50?
Yeah, I think the thing with the people in town is they're just kind of like idiots. because at first they're like,
Yeah.
oh, he killed the senator, and the one guy's like, oh, that's great. I'd love him to kill some more senators. And then someone mentions maybe there's a reward, and they're like, let's get him. They just 180 on him, and then I think the point with the gun was like, I don't know what they expected, but like they showed up and most of them got the shit beaten out of them, and the one guy's like, yeah, I don't really want to shoot you, and so
Okay.
Azrael like just like, yeah, you don't have to. The guy's kind of like he has the gun in his hand, but he's like, he's not gonna pull it on this random dude who's also in a costume and is probably gonna beat him up regardless. And then he just gets blindsided by the scratch demons. I think the costume, it's definitely 90s. It's way worse than the other one. I think the flowing hair at the top is pretty dumb to me. And just like he basically looks like certain elements of the costume, he looks like he's chromed up.
Yeah.
Like the gauntlets previously were like my favorite part of the costume. His mask was pretty cool, and the hoodie and the like weird like he had like the weird like frayed cape thing. I don't even know what you would call that.
I think the
But
standout on this costume is the red cape. I think that's really kind of the most striking visual we get here, and the red highlights on the skin suit I think works too.
but the gauntlets before were really cool because they had this weird like textured thing. It's almost like, I mean, it is kind of similar to Hellboy's one hand, or like almost like an Egyptian kind of thing, where like a steampunk vibe. And now he traded those in for just these like bulky, like shiny, like chrome gauntlets, which I think now, instead of looking like this cool, like he's gonna punch you real hard, now it's like his hands are probably heavy.
Yeah.
Not a fan of this costume overall, but Robinson's art is so good.
Yeah, I definitely preferred the previous Azrael costume. This one overall to me just doesn't feel quite as distinctive. Like before, like especially if he's gonna be hanging around with other Bat people, like oh he just has another half face mask like Batman. Like the other mask was a little more like distinctive looking, like it was all his own, and the gloves were neat. And yeah, I don't think long flowing locks coming out of the top of the mask really looks great. So
I
yeah,
like
the
it
issue is
more
fine.
the third costume, which I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's more in line with the original suit, but it's kind of this with the original colors. Um, Not as cool of a spiky cape, more of just a flat red cape. And his hair is cut, and he's got like yellow eyes, like like yellow eye lenses. I don't like that suit. I think it tries to be a mixture of the original suit and this one. But that's my 2 cents. I don't think we're ever going to see that costume in the show. So only quickly bringing that one up.
Yeah.
I would say that the colors on this suit are actually more in line with Michael Lane, who was the second Azrael, like right before the New 52, who was the Gotham City cop. He was the Azrael that showed up in the Arkham games. He's got like the same color scheme going on with the kind of very, very faint blues and reds. It's the only other similarity I kind of see with that.
Michael Lane to me looks like an Assassin's Creed character.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, especially since like they're going full out with the Order of Saint Dumas with him, as he looks like as he even has like the symbol of the Crusades on his chest and whatnot.
Yeah.
I still like that look though.
Yeah, it's not bad.
If we don't have anything else to say on 50, Mr. Colley, take us to 51. But not Storm Area 51. That'd be something different.
Nope, not gonna do that. I don't need to see any aliens. Not gonna. Okay. So yeah, issue 51. The title is Miracle Run. I can't remember. Was that the title of the previous one too, or no? It must have been something different because it doesn't say Miracle Run Part 2. But yeah, Azrael's just standing there looking at the burning ruins. And he tries calling 911 for an assist, and they're just like, you're breaking up, bad reception, not making any promises or something like that, which did seem like the most on the ball 911 guy to me. Then those bar goons start beating him up again, and he's like, I saved you, you idiots. And so they stop him up once they realize he saved them. And so he goes to look for the professor guy who knew Scratch because he's disappeared now. Follows him into the old church. Meanwhile, we see Nick Scratch's demon goons are preparing to go after him, and we kind of see a bit more of what their personalities are like. Like they're just worshiping Nick Scratch basically. Like they're like, oh, he meant for this to happen, he meant for that to happen. Their whole personality is just that they're blindly devoted to him, and that comes up later. So yeah, he does some light detective work, follows some footprints, and he finds a hidden room behind the organ, hiding. And he says it was a station on the Underground Railroad, which funny little connection. I don't know if this is ever canon in the comics. I remember Batman Begins. They said that like the tunnels under the Batcave were part of the stuff that became the Batcave used to be on the Underground Railroad or something, or the place where like the mansion connected to it or something. But so anyway, yeah, he doesn't know much about Scratch's origin or anything, but he says like, oh, his uncle's got a fishing lodge at Dixon Lake. Put a little shout out there. Near Bloodhaven. That might be where he is. So yeah, then Azrael leaves, and he's still like thinking about how he's pretty sure he doesn't have any powers or skills now that he's in a new costume. And he almost gets hit by lightning, and he thinks he wants to go back in the car, but he's like, no, lightning is not going to strike like that twice. What are the odds? Then lightning hits near him again. The demon goons show up to attack him, and then he gets hit full on by lightning. This is the part. The part I thought was kind of silly was it seems like the lightning either gives him powers or just gives him a big confidence boost. I don't know if that's explained properly later, but and I think they connected that a bit to what they said Scratch's origin was, like something about like where the molecules in his brain scrambled, but they leave it ambiguous. He ends up successfully defeating the demon goons, and he he goes to the cabin he was sent to, and he finds a note from Nick Scratch saying, "See you in Gotham City," and that's the end of the issue. So, yeah, basically, I issue just kind of continues the story, and the big thing here, I suppose, was him regaining his fighting abilities after being hit by lightning, which I don't know, maybe it was just a metaphor sort of thing or something. I don't know. That was kind of funny, but yeah, the art's still cool looking. I thought. Still not a huge fan of the new costume, but it's fine. What do you guys think of this?
For me, this was kind of like a very. I think the series is nothing special. It's very standard. So this is, if 50 was the setup, 51 is going to be the fight. But I liked how we ended with this still. We still end with the chase of Azrael continuing to hunt down Scratch. That we're going to keep building on here, and I like that we're building Scratch as Azrael's villain. So like he has a history with him now, and kind of over the course of like 6 issues, maybe now, he's been tracking him. So, and we've seen Scratch as a factor in some of these other Batman books, kind of briefly. But I like that we're at least giving Azrael something to do. in his own corner, but still feels a part of this whole event. I thought that we were going to have a bigger deal with the Doctor, former colleague, knowing something about Nicholas Scratch, as he's this character that's shrouded in mystery, especially how he got his powers or look the way he is now. I thought the fight sequence layout pages were pretty good by Robinson. I liked. I thought with the rainfall happening down there, I always like that, and I thought there's some kind of grace to the action there that was cool. I don't mind this costume, like I said. Obviously, prefer the regular one, but I do like the cliffhanger ending of Scratch knowing that where Azrael was going to go and being one step ahead, and I'm now definitely invested to see how this is all going to play out. But yeah, this is a very kind of standard beat by beat issue. Like nothing really especially special happens for me here, but nothing to make me go, wow, I hated this or I didn't dislike this. This was very mediocre in the most average way possible, which is almost kind of upsetting because I'm really big fan of Dennis O'Neil, and doing a show or analyzing a kind of this huge story or issue by issue, when you have these issues, there's, at least for me, I don't feel like there's a lot to say, but Vince, I'll open the floor to you.
Yeah, pretty much the same. What stood out to me in this issue and this episode as a whole was the difference in pacing, because issue 50, and they're the same length. 50 is not actually oversized, I don't believe. And 51, if like in terms of plot advancement and everything, so much less happens. And it's not like it's even really balanced out much by like a ton more dialogue or anything. So it just seemed kind of like I got through 50, and it didn't even take like, it wasn't even like a faster read or anything, but I finished 51 and I'm like, if I were to, do the synopsis like Michael did, I'm not certain what I would say. Like, it's like, it just happens, and it's a lot less to talk about compared to 50. And the funny part that I think, and we're constantly talking about the costume, and I mean, this is the episode where we're going to do that. In the issue, at least definitely up until it gets hit by lightning and that weirdo shit. But Jean Paul kind of like shits on his own new costume. Like he kind of is dissing this new costume in like in a weird way while we are. So like I'm almost interested to like try and peek at the letters pages that correspond with these issues and see what Azrael fans were actually thinking in the moment. Of course, I don't know how many of the super negative ones DC would have printed, if there were any, but it's interesting to think about because he shit talks it too.
Yeah, I still want to commend O'Neil for making me care about Azrael and be invested in these issues of art, because I actually do like that. Like, I do like this brief break when we do check in on Azrael like this. I was kind of going into this, I was dreading it, but no, it's been a very happy surprise.
Yeah, DC's put out one trade of this Azrael run. I mean, obviously, all these issues are in No Man's Land, and I think with Azrael, unlike Nightwing and Robin and stuff, it doesn't really jump around much. I think we pretty much read Azrael straight through.
Yeah, we have.
And I think that may continue to a certain point. But then there's a trade, I think it's just called like Azrael Volume 1 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that contains contains his first appearance miniseries, Sword of Azrael, which, if you want to hear me review that, back when I did Cowcast with Mikey and Damone, we did that 4-issue miniseries that's drawn by Joe Quesada.
Yeah.
It's pretty good and fun. I enjoyed that. So I kind of have this soft spot for Azrael going. He's not as bad as everyone kind of remembers him. Almost, it's kind of like a Ben Reilly thing, maybe a little bit, because he did take over as Batman for a portion, but I don't think I don't like him as much as I like Ben Reilly at the end of the Clone Zone, but I think there's definitely a space for Azrael. And like when he was included in Rebirth in Detective Comics, I was happy to see him back.
Yeah, I think what people remember is Nightfall. And
Oh yeah, well, which is his big story.
yeah. Whereas on the Quesada miniseries is pre-Nightfall, and then obviously this ongoing series is post-Nightfall, and those are totally different. Where it's a whole different shifts in his character during Nightfall versus before and after, and this is kind of the solo Azrael stuff, and it's not really talked about much.
No, I feel like no one really had. I don't think anyone really wanted to sit down and really kind of check it out critically. But like I said, you're still getting a very solid comic book by a pretty good creative team. So if you're curious about Azrael, I would say pick these up. I think start with Sword of Azrael because you're still getting O'Neill writing on that too. But you're getting with the Quesada art, that's a pretty damn good drawn book by Joe Quesada. Plus, you get to see Joe Quesada draw Batman. And if you enjoy his Daredevil, his Batman's pretty good too. I'd say on that. But yeah, if we don't have anything else to say, you guys take the floor. I've said everything I can about Azrael.
No, I think I'm tapped out for now.
Call it any last minute additions, because if not, this is going to be like only 2 issues, so it's going to be a short episode.
Sounds like a no. So
sounds like a no. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode. Next episode, we are going to be back into the Batman books proper, and we'll be reading an arc. It's called, I already forget. It's something fear, whatever.
Huntress and Scarecrow.
Yeah, it'll be a Scarecrow arc, and I think we'll see some more Huntress, and it'll be Huntress. Yeah. So we may see some developments on that front.
I read this arc before. I can't remember if we see developments on it, but I do remember liking this. So we'll see if it holds up in my brain.
All right. See you next time. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.